Port Hardy, British Columbia is home to Mowi Canada West, a salmon farm on Canada's Pacific coast. In this episode of Canada's Food System, Our Food, Our Future,
Got some PFDs for you. Okay.
we explore the aquaculture industry, a sector facing struggles but also full of potential for growth. We'll look at the partnerships with First Nations and the commitment to providing Canadians with farmed salmon raised by a dynamic group of people who care deeply for the environment.
Hello, Doug.
And the long-term sustainability of our food system.
This is Doug Knutson. He's the production
Hi, Doug. I'm Annette. Nice to meet
manager
you.
for the area. This is Graham. He manages one of the sites we're not
Hi,
going
Graham.
to.
Nice to meet you.
And this is Michelle Bloom, who I
Hi,
mentioned.
Michelle. Nice.
you are?
Annette.
Hi Annette, Jeff, hey, nice to meet you
Nice
guys.
to meet you.
We're going to go in this boat, I believe. So it is a bit loud.
That's okay.
Under overcast skies, threatening rain, a typical North Island day. A crew gathers in an aluminum boat at Cole Harbour Pier for the 45-minute journey to Monday Rock, a salmon farm operated by Mowi Canada West, BC's largest salmon farming company. It's located in a remote area close to shore in the traditional territory of the Quitsino First Nation.
We're, as an agri-sector, as a food producer, we're 40 years on the BC coast, 60 years in Norway, which was really the start of it all. And you compare that to chicken or swine or beef, you know, so we're the baby. So there's still lots for us to do and improve upon and get better at. And that's what makes it so interesting when I think back to when I started.
That's Dr. Diane Morrison, Managing Director at Mowi Canada West and a veterinarian. She started her career in the early days of salmon farming in BC and remarks on how much the industry has evolved.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly things have changed when you think about it. And it's because of the people that are here. I always call them the MacGyvers of our company. You know, they can look at something they do every day and say, gotta be a way to do this better. Or, you know, if we did it this way, would that be better? And along with just looking after the fish, there's been all the improvements in how we monitor the benthic and how we monitor the water for oxygen, salinity, plankton, any of that. So everything has been improving.
Salmon farms have undergone a significant evolution in every way, including technology, practices and regulations, and sustainability efforts. Farming salmon is a three-step process, starting in the hatchery, where eggs are fertilized and nurtured until they hatch. In this controlled environment, factors such as water quality, temperature, and feeding are closely monitored to ensure optimal growth and health. Once they reach a certain age, the salmon are moved into the sea, where they are raised in carefully managed environments.
Fish go into the sea at about 150 grams in weight from the hatchery.
That's when they're about 1 year old?
Yeah, so they're from egg to when they come out to here is 1 year.
Here, they are placed in ocean net pens, where they can grow in their natural habitat and are protected from outside predators.
So what you'll see is there's this net all the way around the farm, and that's to stop seals or sea lions will jump up onto the system, or they'll try to jump right into the pen.
Okay.
So we have this netting to stop them from doing that. We also have there's two nets. So on the outside of this system, there's a tarpaulin that we talked about, the sea lice skirt, but there's also a predator net, which again stops the seals and sea lions because it's a full net that goes down all the way around under the nets where the fish are and up the other side. So it's fully enclosing the system.
The fish are fed a carefully formulated diet to support their growth. Unlike in the past, when feed was manually tossed in by farmers, modern feeding is automated, ensuring consistency and efficiency. This advancement helps the fish achieve their target weight of 5 kilos.
So the feed is dosed out by a dozer that's controlled in Port Hardy at the feeding center to blow the feed pellets along that line. The spinner is spinning. It does a circular delivery across the surface of the pen. The guys in the feed center, and Michelle's got the cameras here as well, is watching for the pellets to come down, watching the feed behavior of the fish to decide, do they do another burst? Do they keep bursting? Do they slow it down? Do they speed it up until the fish are satiated?
In a feed barge at the farm, technology allows the staff to monitor the fish behavior on a computer screen.
So there's the eye in the sky. She's spinning it around.
neat. Can I...
Underwater cameras and advanced software have become an integral part of salmon farming, allowing marine biologists to gain more insights about the fish while monitoring for pests or potential threats.
These are where you can see the bubbles where the aeration
Oh, yes,
is
that you were
coming up.
talking about.
So that's keeping the water moving, drawing in fresh water. If the plankton is at the top levels, then you use this aeration to sort of drive cleaner water in for the fish. We also have the lighting for the fish, which not so important for this age of fish, but you can use lighting to stop the fish from maturing early. Okay. Because when a salmon matures, they get dark in color and they take the pigment from their flesh for the eggs. And so we try to reduce the amount of early maturation.
The pace of innovation in salmon farming has been rapid, and this has allowed the sector to maintain responsible and sustainable best practices. But it's the dedicated farmers who remain the backbone of this sector.
I would say I was old school when we first started talking about having these remote feeding centers, because for me, it's the farmer, the eyes, the boots on the farm looking at the fish. And when you take away feeding, which is one of the fundamental services that a farmer provides to their animal, it's like it was a disconnect that I had a hard time with, because we need farmers. We can't take Michelle, Terry, or Sherry off of this farm and just leave it with Observe. That would be wrong. You need people watching and caring for the animal and knowing that the feeders are doing it well, and the equipment and the technology, the AI is doing it properly. But you need that feedback from actual eyes on the ground. Otherwise, if we lose that, yeah, I don't think then we're doing what we need to do for the animals under our care.
So AI is like an assistant.
It's an assistant.
The farmers are still key.
Because the AI, what we're finding, and it's no fault of anyone, it's a computer model that's been programmed to look for little pellets. And it's not thinking about, was my baby upset with me this morning? You had a bit of a cough. They're not distracted by human life as we live it. So they can be totally focused and be that much, half a second faster seeing the pellet than the human. No fault of the human, because we're human. But can we use technology to help us provide better for the fish and help make the business better? Absolutely.
Fish are grown at these sites from smolt to harvest size over 18 to 24 months. Then harvested onto a vessel where they are stunned and chilled and transported to a modern processing plant in Port Hardy. When it's at full capacity, the plant can take up to 40,000 fish every day. The fish are brought in on a conveyor belt. In a process that takes under 2 minutes, they are graded, gutted, and packaged. The plant employs 150 people, yet skills of the workforce have shifted over time. Once the fish are placed on ice in a styrofoam box, a robotic arm seamlessly takes over. It scans the label on the side to identify its destination and places the box onto the designated pallet. This advanced technology has transformed what was once a labor-intensive task, lifting 70-pound boxes one by one into a streamlined, automated process.
Again, another improvement because now with the feed and with the handling and the way the boats handle the fish when they're processing or harvesting, the quality of the fish is that much better. The chilling is really consistent and steady. The meat quality is excellent when it's in the box and going out of the plant. So on so many fronts, it's improved.
3 days a week, 40,000 fish leave this plant for consumers in Canada and around the world. The vast majority of salmon Canadians purchase in the grocery store or order in a restaurant in any corner of the country is farmed salmon, and the most common type is called Atlantic salmon.
When people just talk about salmon in a restaurant, it's only, I would say, in British Columbia where you really see a lot on the menu saying wild, wild, wild. Everywhere else you would just, in Ontario, you would just say salmon on your menu.
So if you don't see the word wild, which would be more rare, it's farmed salmon.
Yes, yeah.
And What do you think is the perception people have when they go to the grocery store and they buy salmon? Do you think they understand where it's coming from?
No, I don't think they do. I don't think people really think about their food very much at all. And as Canadians, we don't have to, because we have the luxury of having a very safe food supply. We are known internationally for having a very safe and secure food supply. So I think when people still think there's wild Atlantic salmon fisheries, but there isn't. There's so few wild salmon, Atlantic salmon, left in the world that they are protected. And you have some people fly fishing in Scotland, some high-priced resorts in Norway where you can go and fish for Atlantic salmon, but they're few and far between. So the bulk of salmon is coming from farms around the world. And Canada has an opportunity to provide Canadian-grown salmon to Canadians. If we don't do it here, it will be imported from somewhere else, from Norway or Chile.
And then we'll be paying a lot more for it.
We'll be paying more for it, not only at the till, but in the environment, because you have to have then the greenhouse gas of transporting that salmon to Canada. And this is the other thing that's so fantastic about farming salmon in the ocean, is we have the lowest carbon footprint animal protein produced here in farmed salmon.
In 2020, pressure from anti-farming activists would put this industry in jeopardy, and now on the brink of shutting down entirely in a matter of months. The Canadian federal government announced plans to phase out open net pen salmon farming in British Columbia.
It is about diseases. They're worried about wild salmon. They're worried about the environment. Absolutely. So are we, because we have to farm in these areas, so we need a healthy environment for our fish. As farmers, we want our fish to be healthy and survive, because that's how we survive as a company and as a business. So in many ways, I see that our values and our concerns and focus are aligned. But there's that's lack of, I would say, it boils down to a lack of trust.
A lack of trust because Diane says activists and decision makers are not paying attention to the data that has shown how innovation and technology has transformed the industry since the early days.
We're fighting a lot of storylines that are based in the early days of my wood cages and hand feeding and no cameras and no technology. But it is so different now, and it will only get better if the government will allow us.
Concerns of open net pen farming center around the impacts on the wild fish population. An inquiry more than a decade ago called for recommendations that would provide answers.
They did 9 risk assessments based on different pathogens. They had done one previously on sea lice. All of this came back less than minimal risk. So we thought, good. So we should be allowed to continue operations.
But the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans would not follow the science. The operations in an area called Discovery Islands on the east side of Vancouver Island would shut down, costing Maui 45% of their production.
We need to get that back ASAP. Otherwise, we're at risk of losing, because it's expensive to run these farms, and you have to have at least a minimum amount of production to be able to maintain your whole operations. We're right on the edge right now, so we need the Canadian government to wake up and recognize that they need to support the farmers in British Columbia.
In June 2024, all other operations were up for renewal and given a 5-year license. The licenses expire in 2029.
But after that, farms would be banned unless they were closed containment or on land. The technology for closed containment does not exist anywhere in the world. It is not being done commercially anywhere in the world. People are playing with it and trying it, but it's not there. And we as an industry, as a sector, were given 5 years to switch the whole sector over to a technology that did not exist.
The ban will effectively eliminate BC's top agri-food export, destroy more than 4,500 jobs, and negatively impact over 1,000 Indigenous people directly or indirectly employed by the sector.
My name's Dallas Smith. I'm the chief of the Cloud Seas Nation. I'm the president of Namakol's Council. In the last 5 years, I've been fighting pretty hard because it's a major source of revenue for my nation.
Dallas says there are over 500 full-time jobs in BC remote First Nations communities that depend on salmon farming, communities with unemployment as high as 70%.
So losing one $100,000 a year family supporting job has social impacts that we're still trying to measure. And so while the salmon farming companies do the salmon farming and they do the oversight of that, we have cabs, water taxis that bring the employees back and forth to the sites in between shifts. We have net cleaning contracts, so when the nets have to get taken down in between cycles, our people get an opportunity to provide some economic certainty and build on that and clean those sort of opportunities. And it fits really hand in hand because traditionally we're fisher people. Our people have always depended on fishing, and as fishing started to subside, our people had all these ocean-going nautical skills, and it's really in their DNA that salmon farming has really been a nice fit. We need people who understand tides. We need people who have traditional ecological knowledge.
Salmon farmers in BC, along with the First Nations in whose territories they farm, have consistently committed to continuous innovation, integrating modern scientific advancements with traditional knowledge, a collaboration that is forward-thinking and focused on progressive aquaculture practices.
Most of the First Nations who are involved in salmon farming are so conservation focused. Most of us have vast protected areas in our territories that limit logging, limit mining, even limit hydroelectric power and some other things like that. And so it's kind of funny that the activists have kind of run into these nations that are trying to find the balance. And we kind of take it as a bit of victory. I mean, as early as 2019, we were a stroke of a pen away from being taken out of existence, and since the First Nations have come together and started fighting the fight, we got 4 more years. We weren't actually even expecting licenses to get renewed last June. But thanks to the effort of the First Nations with support of the companies, local communities, as it was being threatened to take away, people finally realized and got in the fight.
It makes me so angry as a Canadian to see this craziness, and it's only being driven by a very few well-connected, loud opponents who have not been to one of our farms, if ever, but if they were, it was back in the 80s. So they are not even talking apples to apples of what we are doing now and what we are capable of. It's really so unfair. And as a country, it's embarrassing. Every other country in the world is looking at the ocean as a way of providing food and producing food, and Canada, in British Columbia specifically, is looking at shutting it down. Makes no sense.
According to the Canadian Aquaculture Industry Alliance, the sector generated an impressive $5.3 billion in economic activity in 2023, providing jobs for over 17,000 Canadians across the entire food production value chain in coastal and rural communities, with salmon farming leading the way. Canada's geography presents the greatest cold water production opportunity in the world, yet we only use 2% of it. Often referred to as the Blue Revolution, ocean farming is Canada's ticket to food security and sovereignty. Aquaculture, especially salmon farming, represents a huge opportunity for investment in growth.
Canada should be a leader in salmon aquaculture. We are the 4th largest in the world, which is a designation we've had forever because the other countries, Norway, Chile, Scotland, have all grown, but we've diminished. But we're still number 4, and we could have been leaders.
The economic impact is matched by the health benefits to consumers. Salmon has long been touted as a superfood, a rich source of omega-3 fatty acids, helping to combat a number of health issues, including heart disease. The farmers, who are scientists, marine biologists, and engineers, among others, are believers in this industry as much as Diane is.
Like, people say to me, how do you keep doing this? I said, because I know in my heart of hearts, this is the right thing to do. Canada needs salmon farming. The opportunities are immense. 70% of our globe is covered with ocean, and less than 2% of our caloric intake comes from the ocean. We have to change that. Canada could be a leader. They should be a leader.
On the next episode of Canada's Food System, Our Food, Our Future.
Every spring when that air drill starts, I think, here we go. we're doing something not only for our family and our farm, but who's this going to feed?
A closer look at the food we export around the world, its importance to our economy, plus supply management, what it means for local farmers and Canadian consumers. If you'd like more information, log on to our website, canadasfoodsystem.ca. This has been a Spark Advocacy production for the Canada's Food System Initiative.